Hi, my name is Sam and I'm at the Bondwell branch of the Shawano County Libraries, and for this week's chapter of the week, I'm doing something a little different. It's not exactly, well, it's not a fiction book, but it's not a traditional chapter either that I'm going to read from. But the book is Everything I Need to Know I Learned from Mr. Rodgers' Neighborhood, and it's written, by Melissa Wagner. So I'm going to read the introduction and the first section. You can find it in our nonfiction section. I just felt like we need a little bit more Mr. Rodgers in our life. So, introduction. Some of my dearest childhood memories occurred in my grandmother's cozy living room, curled up on the floor in front of a 70s-style console television, watching Mr. Rodgers' Neighborhood. I would observe my best adult friend change into a sweater and sneakers, play music and sing. He'd introduce me to talented people, show me how crayons and applesauce and wagons are made, and let me peek into a colorful world where no one is perfect, but everyone is accepted and appreciated. Then he'd tell me I was one of a kind and that people could like me just for being me. Revisiting the show as an adult, I realized there's a depth and intention behind Mr. Rodgers' Neighborhood that I didn't notice as a child. Hidden in plain sight are displays of some of my most deeply held beliefs and the messages I want to share with my daughter. You have value, and so does every other person, so treat yourself and others with care and respect. People's differences should be acknowledged and welcomed. It's okay to talk about the things that make us feel bad. Don't get so busy that you stop recognizing beauty and learning about the world. In this book, you'll find quotes and anecdotes taken directly from the television visits with Mr. Rodgers, his neighbors, and the familiar faces of the residents of the neighborhood of make-believe. Mr. Rodgers was always focused on children, but his words are just as important and meaningful to adults. First section is titled, You Are Special. Everybody's special in this life. Everybody you meet has something special to give and receive. We are all special. Mr. Rodgers told each one of us that not only are we special, but also that each of our neighbors is special too. These core messages go hand in hand. Each time he appeared on our television screens, his love for people shone through. With each interaction he had, whether with a child, a service worker, a famous musician, or a familiar neighborhood friend, he modeled appreciation for every person's inherent worth. Quote, everybody's different and everybody's valuable. The world can be a better place because you were born into it. Unquote. Valuing others. Mr. Rodgers helped his neighbors recognize the goodness inside them. When Mr. McFeely arrived at Mr. Rodgers' house feeling sad after a delivery mishap, Mr. Rodgers listened as Mr. McFeely shared his feelings. Then he assured Mr. McFeely that everyone makes mistakes and reminded him of how grateful he was to have him in his life. Did you ever have anybody hurt your feelings? Did anyone ever say anything to you that made you feel really small and not very lovable? That feels awful, doesn't it? But isn't it nice when somebody helps you feel good about who you are? I mean, if you look for it, you'll probably find something inside of everybody. It is important to look inside yourself and find the loving part of you. That's the part that you must take good care of and never be mean to, because that's the part of you that allows you to love your neighbor, and your neighbor is anyone you happen to be with at any time in your life. There's a nice picture there. Appreciating the work that people do. Every one of us contributes something of value to the wider world. Whether in visits or in the picture screen, Mr. Rodgers took us on tours of factories and workshops to show how people make the things we use every day. He explained each step of the process, peppering his commentary with compliments and admiring words. This man surely works quickly and carefully, doesn't he? And she really knows her work. That showed his respect for people and their efforts. I like to think of all the different things people make in this world. You know, even when it looks like complicated machinery is doing a lot of the work, it's important to remember that people made those machines. We wouldn't have any machines to do work if there hadn't been people to think them up and make them in the first place. And that's the end. Again, if you want to check it out, everything I need to know, I learned from watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Thank you.